Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's football show here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's programme. Murty reckons Rangers are right to take their time in recruiting a new manager. John Robertson says Hearts have a long-term view on Ian Cathro. And Brendan Rodgers pays tribute to Celtic legend Billy McNeill. Yeah, welcome to Monday night's programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. As ever, our bookroom guest on the Monday is Mark Guidi. We'll look back over the weekend's football, all the results, and we'll also hear from the Rangers caretaker boss, Graham Murty. Rangers obviously are stepping up their move for a director of football, Ruffy, and the need for a manager too is increasing, although it looks as if you're reading the reports in this morning's papers, it could be that if there is a manager coming in, he could make his debut in the Old Firm game.
Yeah, well, I think now, obviously, with the way the results have went, I think the process will be speeded up. I think if Rangers were winning games on the park, it gives them more time. But I think the fans are getting a bit impatient now. They want to know who it is. They want to know who the candidates are. So I think as soon as somebody goes in there, it might steady the ship a wee bit. But again, I think we're all guessing at names.
Yeah, Rangers take on St Johnstone before that Scottish Cup match against Hamilton, and Graham Murty said it's vital that the club take their time to get the right man in charge.
Been told the process is ongoing, interviews are taking place, and someone will be appointed. I think we have to respect the club's wishes and make sure that they get it right. I think if we appoint quickly and get it wrong, it would be much more damaging than taking time and actually getting it right. So we have to be respectful of the board's wishes to go through their process, do their due diligence and get the right person in place.
Well, who is the right person? That's the big question. I mean, the bookies were suddenly making Barry Ferguson the favourite after he quit as Clyde boss, but I don't think they're going down that road, Mark.
No, Barry Ferguson won't be the next manager or head coach of Rangers. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up involved in some capacity in the new setup. Certainly one or two directors would like to see that happen, but he certainly won't be the head coach. He's not ready for a job like that. Rangers need to get it right, Peter. Director of football's the road they're going down, and then their head coach. I don't know who they're going to get, but what I would do at the moment, bearing in mind the last two performances and the last two results, and I'd like to think if you're a Rangers player, regardless of Dave King and not having a manager and all the upset the past few weeks, that you'd be embarrassed if you looked at that league table as a Rangers player, because they should be doing a lot better than what they are. But what I do just now to prepare for the Hamilton game, bearing in mind if you get to the final, it's the best part of about £1 million for Rangers, is somebody's already at the club and get them involved this week would be John Brown. I would get Bomber in there and liven things up and just remind some of those players what it means to play for Rangers and exactly what's at stake, because I just don't think enough of them are grasping it. Too many of them are on easy street at the moment. They're getting an easy ride, and I think a couple need a boot up the backside. So until a new guy comes in, if they're not going to appoint an interim guy, John Brown is employed by the club, the marketing commercial department. If he wants to, and I'm sure he would, put him in there because he knows what it's all about.
It needs someone to liven it up, Ruffy, because they look as fragile as Richie Foran suggested prior to Inverness taking all 3 points.
Yeah, well, it's just as Mark said there, they don't have a leader off the park and they don't have a leader on it. You know, every club needs a pivotal player on the park who's actually going to organise things. Rangers just don't look as if they have that. Obviously, Kenny Miller is an experienced player, but you need more than that. You need more than one captain. You need 2 or 3. And it's just not happening for them. I agree with Mark. Somebody walking into the dressing room with a bit of respect, somebody who's been there, the fans can associate with them. He said John Brown. I just can't believe why they haven't phoned Alec McLeish. And I'm sure Alec, being out of a job, would love to go in and help with the time that he's had there.
I mean, unless there's something in the background which is ongoing, which prevents them from just going out and... I'm suggesting, is there enough money there to go and get the right man now? Because they would certainly be able to spend more money in the summer, Mark, because they would have season ticket money, and then they would be able to go and get a bigger quality manager, not necessarily with a huge amount of funds, but that's one of the things that that suggests to me there's a delay as well.
Well, therein lies the problem, Peter, for anybody, whether it's going to be Derek McInnes or Tommy Wright or Alec McLeish or Billy Davis or Gary Rowett, you know, those kind of guys, whoever it's going to be, they're going to need money. And all those guys have worked very hard to earn the reputations that they've got, and that's why they're in the frame to be the next manager of Rangers. But whether, even if you gave them a really good salary, you know, if you say to them, you know, there's £1 million, there's 20 grand a week to be the manager of Rangers, they're going to say, great, but what have I got to spend? What have I got to make sure we do emerge over the next 12 months as a real second team in Scotland, and we put Hearts and Aberdeen to one side, and then you focus on getting Celtic the season after that. But you're going to need major money, and they're going to have guarantees that the money's there, because again, if you look at that Rangers squad over this season, and particularly over the last couple of games, the next manager who goes in there will absolutely need to gut the place, because there's hardly any. I would say Kenny Miller deserves a new contract. Lee Wallace was a really good left back. You've got Barry Mackay. Apart from that, would you really want to keep anybody if you really want to emerge as a major force? No. So you're going to really have to go and revamp the place.
Yeah. Well, there's one club that does have money, and that's Hearts, but they certainly have come under a fair bit of scrutiny over the last week or so, with results knocked out of the cup against Hibernian at Easter Road, and then off the back of that, a disappointing performance against Partick Thistle, where they lost at the weekend. But despite all the criticism, Hearts legend John Robertson was out at Tynecastle today, and he has suggested that this is a long-term view the club is taking on Ian Cathro.
Well, teams go through bad runs. We've got a relatively new bunch of players. There's 9 players arrived in January. It's taken them time to gel, but we'll get there. You know, this is not a short-term project for Hearts. It's not a short-term project. You know, Ian Cathro will be given time. He'll be given the chance to mould his own team, get his own team, and then there'll be more arrivals, I'm assuming, in the summer, and then we'll take it from there. But you know, there's nobody at the club here is panicking. It isn't the results we want, and listen, nobody's hurting more than Ian Cathro and his team at the moment, but we'll get it right.
I've always maintained, Ruffy, that he will get another transfer window to build his own side and get them to play the way he wants.
Yeah, but as it stands just now, what he's done is he's put himself under pressure, you know, with the results that they've got. You know, the fans are obviously unhappy, they're out the cup, they're slipping down the league. So he has to convince them that there is a long-term plan, and that the players that he's brought in are quality players, because as Mark was saying there, on Saturday's evidence that they're far short of what we thought they were. All right, some of them have got a pedigree and a CV, but they just don't seem to have adapted to the way that we play our football. So I just thought right at the start, you know, bringing that many players in when they were doing so well, sitting second top of the league, everything was going well. We were all raving about them being a quality side to watch playing, and then all these players come in and then they start sliding down. It's obviously, as John said, they need time, but you know, when you're up there second in the league and then the fans see St Johnstone are catching up as well, if they end up 5th, you know, that's a disappointing season.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Ross County in midweek, Mark. I actually thought never a better chance for them to leapfrog Rangers, but they seem to be throwing that chance away.
Yeah, I was at Firhill on Saturday for the game against Partick Thistle, and as you said, Peter, you know, there was a great incentive there to go and win the game and to close the gap on Rangers to just 2 points, but they couldn't do it. And Partick Thistle thoroughly deserved the win. Credit to Alan Archibald and his players, but Hearts, you know, they were disjointed, weren't organised enough at the back, and to be honest, I don't like saying it, but it looked as though there was a lack of commitment at certain times during the game, which has got to be a concern for Ian Cathro, and that's something he's got to sort out. He's got to identify the guys who are willing to go and play for the jersey, who are willing to go and get through this tough period, because you can't carry any slackers at the moment.
Yeah, if anything, Ruffy, I mean, I'm sure some footballers would balk at the suggestion of a lack of commitment. If anything, I looked at them against Hibernian and I thought there was a lack of a real leader to grab the team by the scruff of the neck and say, you know, let's get out there on this park and attack. They looked at times bereft of ideas against Hibs.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as we're discussing with Rangers. You know, they don't seem to have a figurehead on the park with all these new players coming in, and a lot of them obviously foreign players. You know, I don't know if the dialogue's there. I don't know if they know, you know, if they're communicating with each other properly. That seems to me what it is, that they're just running about doing their own thing.
Okay, coming up after the break, we're going to talk about a Celtic legend in this 50th year of celebrating Celtic's win in the European Cup in Lisbon. The sad news to hear that Billy McNeill has dementia has really shocked most of the football world. We'll talk about Billy after the break, and we'll have a wee question for you now to take you into the break. Yeah, 27 years of age when Billy McNeill lifted the European Cup in Lisbon in 1967, defeating Inter Milan by 2-1. It really was a sad article in the papers at the weekend. It's something that I think quite a lot of us in the industry have known for a while, that Billy wasn't well, but the decline is still difficult to take when you see such a man of stature. You know, and again, if you're talking about leaders, he epitomises everything that you could ever want in a leader, Ruffy.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to play at Celtic when he was the manager, and it was a well-known fact when we turned up in the morning for training, and it was 10 o'clock every morning, and we were all in the dressing room ready to go at 10 o'clock because he was a stippler for timekeeping. But when he walked through that door, the chest was out. You know, you knew who was coming through that door. You knew he had the respect to everybody in there, and he had a bit of humour to him as well. But the respect that he got from everybody because of what he had done in the game was there for everybody to see.
Yeah, it raises another question. There's no doubt that Billy, you knew exactly what you were getting from a centre half of that stature, that height. He headed so many balls, and people are looking at the relationship between, you know, heading the ball and the dementia and the onset of dementia for Billy. 77 now. And I think Ian St John has been quite outspoken about it down south with regards to Jeff Assel as well. I don't know if there needs to be a greater protection long term, a greater insight into the research of it, Mark. And there's even talk that professional footballers might even have to sign a disclaimer saying, well, you know the dangers of what you're getting into. If you head the ball in long term, there could be, you know, a detrimental effect on your brain.
Well, you know, Peter, if there is a link to it, and I don't know, you really need to leave that to the experts, but I agree with what you have to do certainly now, all these cases that are coming up, and Big Billy's one highlighted at great length yesterday, and it was a fantastic interview and very brave, I think, of his wife Liz, and a great family around about him, and great friends like Mike Jackson and stuff as well. And we know Billy's son Martin, who's involved in television and the media, and who's a great guy. So first and foremost, a really good family, but you're right, there's got to be research into it. But what do you do? Because heading's a part of the game. You know, I don't know what you do to try and prevent it, but it's definitely something that's got to be investigated at greater length. And as Alan says, on a personal note, it's found Billy McNeill just a lovely guy, well-mannered, and whether it was a dressing room, Ruffy, or walking into a studio, or walking into a press room, or bumping into him up in Newton Mearns, whatever it may be, just that great presence, a great stature, and for what he's achieved in the game, I was just a really down-to-earth, he is a down-to-earth, humble man, and I wish him and his family all the best.
Yeah, I mean, I know in America they've tried to ban kids heading the ball up to a certain age, Ruffy. In Billy's day, you know, as you well know, they were heading balls that could retain water. I mean, leather balls, some of them with a bit of a rope, the laces on it as well. So it was a fair bit of pounding. Let's not forget about training as well. You know, so it was relentless in those days. I just don't know, other than, you know, it's a situation, you get into a Formula One car, there's a risk that you could crash. If you're going to head a ball, there's a risk that constant pounding with your head is going to do damage.
Yeah, but it's a difficult one. I watched a film about the American football and
Concussion.
The concussion, you know, and I think the main point of this thing was being aware of it. You know, I think if we're talking about it and people are saying, and there is research obviously going to have a look at it, let's just do everything we can to protect everybody who's head on the ball.
Yep, absolutely. We wish Billy and his family all the very best. And of course, in this year of all years, I'm sure Billy will certainly be there with all the other remaining Lisbon Lions at the celebrations. We certainly hope he's able to attend most of them. As far as other football issues, of course, Billy actually managed Mark McGee in 1988 when he was playing alongside Frank McAvenny in that centenary side. Now as a manager, Mark is feeling the heat just as Billy did on many an occasion in his management career, this time with Motherwell. I'll be bold about it. I don't think there's any need for panic. I don't see Motherwell being involved in the playoff. I think they'll escape if they stick with their man, Mark. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I'd agree with you. First of all, I was very, very surprised that they were 5-1 down at half time. Actually, I did fancy them to win the game, but nothing like that. Couple injury problems, losing Stephen McManus. But I agree with you, Peter. The Motherwell fans, not going to criticise him for wanting Mark McGee out or staging a protest. Are perfectly entitled to do that. They're concerned about their club and they're on a bad run of results. Mark's had, I would put it as some unnecessary publicity, which he's brought on himself, which he really should know better. But in terms of getting them out of this situation, I agree with you. I think they'll be absolutely fine, but it's something obviously that the club and Mark will have to review in the summer.
I mean, at the end of the day, I watched the highlights of it, Ruffy. Shambolic defending and basically standing off men when they really should have put a tackle in. I mean, that is the basis of most of the goals. That was just...
Yeah, I think most of Motherwell's success was because with the nucleus of experienced players from the back, with Steve McManus in the middle, with Keith Lasley, and up front with Scott McDonald. That wasn't there at the weekend, so I think you can give him a wee bit of leeway with that one, and I think Mark's hands have been tied. I think he's unfortunately at a club where they've sold most of their best players to keep them ticking over. He has got a couple of young boys who have broke through, and that's the way it's going to be. And I think if you cast your mind back to the start of the season, Mark actually held his hands up and said, look, this is my budget. This is the budget I've been given me. I'm quite happy to work with it. I know the restraints in the club financially, so I'm just going to go on with it and hopefully we can do a good job.
Okay. There's quite a few fixtures in midweek that will give us a clearer picture on a number of issues. Aberdeen are obviously in action against Hamilton Accies on the Tuesday. With a 9-point advantage, Mark, I just can't see anyone catching them now in second place.
No, I think Aberdeen are good for it, Peter, and you've got to give a lot of credit to Derek McInnes and his squad, because they've just managed to put a lot of battles. I think as well over the period they've been called bottle merchants, and people question whether they have the right mentality to go and do it. Now they've not achieved second place yet, but certainly they're clear favourites, and now they've got the bit between their teeth. You can sort of see the finishing line between now and the split, and I think Aberdeen will be good for it, and well deserved. Yeah,
one other issue I want to talk about, well, a couple of things before we go, lads. St Mirren have certainly grabbed the bull by the horns, Ruffy. They're right back in the mix after that win over Ayr United. Our reporter Des McKeown caught up with Jack Ross at the end of the game to get his thoughts on this battle ahead for the Saints to try and avoid relegation.
Busy month in March. We've got 8 games because of our success in cup competitions as well, but we've got a stronger squad, a bigger squad, a squad I think that's capable of meeting that challenge. The league games of course will be the priority, but what we're going into now is probably the best frame of mind this group has been in all season, and that's a good thing to have at our disposal. Our opponents today, along with other clubs in the league, they're all in the better position, they're all in the stronger position, they have more points than us at the moment, but we believe in our ability to get out of this situation, believe we're going to win games between now and the end of the season, and hopefully they are, because we need to do that, we want to do it, it's the reality of the situation we're in.
Yep, game on now. They've suddenly closed the gap, Ruffy.
Yeah, well, even when they weren't winning games, any time we interviewed him on the show, he was always positive. He always believed that he could turn it around. And I think what he's done is he's tried to install that into the players. And when the players win in the semi-final game and winning at the weekend, they will now have the belief that they can they'll catch what's above them, and if they get a wee cup win as well, that'll just keep everything rolling along. But I still think it's a hard shift, because obviously Dumbarton are picking up points. He's looking for Ayr United, obviously not to go on the up, but that's up to them.
Yep, just one thing to finish. I watched the English League Cup final and Ibrahimovic. I thought the interview with him was absolutely special when he said,
Brilliant.
"Do you feel as if there's something special happening at this club?" And he says, "I came here, that's what's special." That's the type of interview you love, isn't it, Mark?
It was great. I watched the interviews as well, and you couldn't mark him with a blowtorch, but he's brilliant. He's quality, and I think is one of the co-commentators pointed out, or the summarisers yesterday. They said, where would Man United be this season without him? Now, maybe Rashford would have had more chances, or Martial or Rooney, whatever, but he, for a free transfer, which he reminded Paul Pogba about in another interview, "I came for nothing, you cost 90 million." He is quality, and Man United need to get him tied down on a new contract for next season, Peter. But the suggestion is, if they don't make the Champions League, he'll be for the off, because he wants Champions League football next season.
Yep, 26 goals in 38 games. And he did tell us all he was going to be a sensation in the division. We should have listened. Thanks to Mark Guidi for joining us on the programme. From Alan Ruff and myself, Peter Martin, thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at 7.